Hello and welcome, my competition curious friends. This Flexi Fit competition session is an introduction to the competitive pole, aerial, and circus scene. I created this session for aspiring competitors, as well as coaches, parents, and studio owners that are looking to help guide this next generation of competitors and also to get involved themselves. So I know that navigating this journey to the stage can feel like an overwhelming, intimidating, and complex process. In a lot of ways, it definitely is, but it doesn't have to be that hard. And so that's why I created this course in order to help you navigate that. So I want to help you guys explore the universe of available competitions because there's quite a few out there and they do differ. To help you know when you or your athlete is ready to compete. And hint, it might be sooner than you think. To also understand the full commitment required once you sign up to compete, and to help you decipher the most common differences between organizations so that you can pick the competition that's going to be best for you and your competitive goals. So my goal is simple. I just want to help you feel more confident and prepared so that you can pick the competitive opportunities that best align with your goals and make this journey as enjoyable and successful as possible. Yeah. So just a little bit about me. If you don't know me, my name is Ashley. I am located in Dallas. I am the owner of Aerial Athletics Dallas, which is home to Flexi Fit, Slay the Stage, Aerial Athletes, and Everybody teacher training. And I have a very, I guess you could say, unique 360-degree view of the competitive landscape. I have seen and experienced competition from pretty much every angle possible over the last decade. As a competitor, as a judge's trainer, also as a volunteer, and even an organizing committee member for multiple competitions. So pretty experienced and well-rounded in all things competition. I am a former competitor. I started competing back in 2011, and I've been a competition coach since 2016, although I actually started teaching back in 2013. And in addition to judging for over a dozen different competitions, some that you know very, very well, and some that actually no longer exist, I also serve as head judge for USPSF, which is the U.S. Pole Sport Federation, pole and aerial though. I am also their judge's trainer. I am a PSO unicorn, and I am on the POSA ethics committee. So I get around, I do a lot of things, but it's all of those different things that give me kind of the perspective and the insight that I want to share with you guys. I will also be serving as head judge for the pole and aerial sport worlds in Budapest this December, so super excited about that. And in the Muggle world, I am a designer, a creative business consultant, a professional photographer, and also a producer of Slay the Stage. And so it's pretty cool because all of those different skills and professional things that I do also contribute to how I help coach competitors and also how I judge. So a lot of alignment there that's really, really neat. So today, what we are going to talk about is knowing if you're ready. We're going to talk about benefits of competition. We're going to talk about some of the barriers to competition, and there's probably more than you think there. We're going to go over some broad strokes as far as things like levels, categories, age groups, really in the fact that they are just very, very different for every competition. We're going to talk a little bit about score sheets and what's pretty standard. We'll also talk about the cost of competition and things that fall under cost like time commitment, coaching considerations, what you can expect on this journey. So basically all of the things that you need to know to help you decide if you actually want to compete. What we won't really talk about in detail in this session, but you can catch in an upcoming session or in my Stage Ready course, is how to build a routine, training schedule specifics, costuming, music selection, because that is a huge, huge topic of its own. Again, all of those things are very, very important, but just kind of outside of what it is I want to focus on today. So today is really about helping you get started. So let's talk about benefits of competing. Why would someone want to compete? So I'll be honest, competition can be a really, really stressful process at times. Sometimes it's not fun to go up against other people and get compared to other people, or just to be judged in general. But outside of those things, there are some pretty amazing benefits to competing that I hope you guys will consider. So one of those is that you get to strengthen your performance muscle. So whether your goal is just to freestyle better, learn how to connect the dots and elements, put on a great show, or you have bigger goals of, joining the circus one day, performing professionally, doing gigs if you want to be in the gig economy, whatever your goals might be, strengthening your performance muscle is a great thing to use competition for because it is excellent practice. Competition is a great way to just put into practice what you've been learning in classes. It gives you exponential growth. And so I tell people it's one thing to go to classes week after week after week. Sometimes you revisit material, sometimes you never see it again. So you don't really know how to call upon it and put it into combos and sequences. But when you're forced to practice something over and over and over and refine it and put it into something that's your own, it just leads to a different kind of growth that you don't get just going to different classes each week, although classes are still great. Competing also forces you to learn so much about your body and your movement and your preferences. So it's a really amazing opportunity to just get in touch with you and how you move. It's a great way to, again, master your movement through regular practice. So it forces you to practice in a way that we probably don't normally do. Even if you go to Open Studio, practicing for competition is different than just going to Open Studio and looking at your list of to-dos or your saved inspo videos from Instagram and then trying them and then jumping to another task. Competition is also a great way to challenge and test yourself. How does this move look on you? How does it look put into a combo? How has your journey manifested to this point? It's just a good way to challenge yourself. It's also a great way to make new friends, especially if you're traveling to competitions, and to just build something that you can be proud of. All right, so the biggest question that I get from people is, am I ready? So we're going to take this little short 3-question quiz that I give to everyone, because the things that I hear is, I haven't been doing this a long time. I don't really know that much. I'm not good enough. I don't know any difficult tricks. And I'm going to tell you, none of that matters. All right. So we're going to take this quick assessment, and I just want you to answer these 3 questions. Number 1, do you like music? I didn't hear it now. So if you're like everyone, we all like music. Who doesn't love music? Yeah. Number 2, do you know at least 3 moves? I know you're counting in your head. 1, 2. Okay, you got to 3. You probably thought of 9 moves that you know, which is more than enough, trust me. And question number 3, do you sometimes sorta kinda like attention from the right people? Yeah, friends, supporters, other people in our community, that's good attention. So if you answered yes to all 3 of those questions, you are absolutely ready to compete. Of course, there's more finer details that we have to get into, but those are kind of like the big global things. And if you said yes to that, there's no reason you should say no to yourself. Going into cost. So costs can vary from competition to competition, depending on the competition you do, the location, and even what level you're at. So I would say a minimum cost that you might expect to spend is around $350. And then I'm going to kind of give you a breakdown of what might go into that $350. Again, that is just very bare minimum, no extra bells and whistles, really just like your competitor fee and your costume. But again, a lot more can go into that. I know people that have spent upwards of thousands and thousands of dollars. If you got it like that, good. But you don't need a lot of money to compete, but you do need a little bit of money. So entry fees, that can range anywhere from about $40 to $200. It depends again on the competition you're doing, if it's in person or if it's virtual, and what level you are. Typically competitions that have like an amateur and a professional level, sometimes those can differ in the cost. Um, In-person competitions tend to be more expensive because the overhead for the competition organizers is higher, and so they have to factor in those costs when they set the competitor costs. Then there's photo and video packages. If you want memories of your routine, those can range anywhere from $40 to $125, just depending on the competition and what team that they bring in to do the video and photography. Some competitions allow you to have cameras, some allow you to take camera phones. What they allow is specific to each competition, so just make sure you know what their rules are, and then that can help you decide if you want to invest in a photo or video package. Also, you have your hair and makeup, your costume, you have props, you might have music editing if you need to slow a song down, speed it up, cut it, blend it. You have travel and lodging. Some competitions are awesome in the fact that they get room blocks with different hotels. I will tell you that the price that they offer isn't always the best price, so just kind of shop around and do your research. You also have options like Airbnbs or other hotels in the nearby area that can actually be a little bit cheaper, so definitely do your research on that. You have food costs because, hey, we've got to eat on competition day. Swag, there's usually some sweet swag from the competition organizers for sale, and a lot of competitions also have vendors, and so that's another great way to stash and stock up on your pole, aerial, and circus gear as well. There is supplemental training. So if you want to do things like gymnastics, learn different dance styles, ballet, acting, flexibility, anything that's going to support your growth as a competitor and make you a more well-rounded performer, those things cost. They are worth it, especially, again, if you want to win or you want to do this professionally, you want to go ahead and start thinking about investing in those supplemental training options. Then there's also private training and coaching. You definitely want to consider getting a competition coach. Your everyday instructors are great, but if they don't specialize in competitions, then they might not be able to support you in the way that you need to be supported on that competitive journey, because there's just a lot of competition specific things that if you've never competed before or you don't regularly follow competitions and judging and rules, that you just might not know as an instructor. There's also studio rentals for you to practice and rehearse, or doing open studio classes at your studio. Sometimes that's included in your current membership, sometimes it's not, so just something to factor in. There's body care outside of our training, so things like massages or going to the chiropractor, because you want to keep your body in really good, strong, tip-top shape. And then also coaching passes. Some competitions require your coach to have a pass in order to attend, to go backstage, to even spot you on stage, so make sure that you know what the rules there are. And things like anti-doping would be an additional fee as well. So those are just some of the costs that can go into your overall kind of financial planning and budgeting for competition. Again, there's probably a whole host of other things that's not listed in there, but those are kind of like the main things that most people will spend money on for competition. Okay, so let's get into like a little bit of a sensitive topic. This one comes with a trigger warning, and we're going to talk about gender classification, because this is something that does differ from competition to competition. Competitions follow one of three formats. One is there's no gender separation at all. They put all competitors, regardless of your gender identity, into the same category. Now, you'll still be separated by like age, level, category, style, as far as like if it's artistic, exotic, dramatic, things like that. But as far as gender goes, they just put us all together. The other one is self-identified gender separation. So these competitions do separate genders, but they allow the competitor to compete as they currently are and identify. So whatever you identify as, whoever you are, that is what you compete as. And then the third one is gender separation based on birth assignment. So these competitions separate genders and require competitors to compete based on the gender that was assigned at birth. Okay, so each approach has its own considerations. I'm not here to say what's right or what's wrong. I just want to tell you to do what's best for you. And that means researching the competitions you're thinking about doing and seeing how they classify their athletes and taking that into consideration when you choose a competition. Just do what's best for you, who you are now, and think about how you want to experience competition. So again, look at the rules to know where and with whom you'd be competing. Decide if you are comfortable with how that competition approaches this topic. Avoid being put in a situation that doesn't align with you. Use this information to help you discern who you could possibly be going up against if you feel like something like that matters to you. If it does, no judgment. And if it doesn't, no judgment. But just something to be aware of. All right, so let's talk common barriers. So believe it or not, there are quite a few barriers to competition. The number one barrier I would say is cost. And we kind of went through a list of things that you could end up having to pay for depending on, if you're all in or if you're just kind of dipping your toe in and how big of a production you want to put on. So that cost, those can add up really quickly. And if you don't have the finances to support all of those things, then that can definitely be a big barrier. Time is a barrier. We have work, we have lives, we have kids, we have spouses and girlfriends and boyfriends. We have other activities that we like to do. And so sometimes just the time commitment is hard to juggle, especially when you're already taking other classes at your studios. Coaching is a big barrier. Coaching from the financial aspect of can you afford a coach, but also coaching from having access to qualified, experienced, and knowledgeable coaches, competition coaches. Again, there's nothing wrong with training with your current instructors or even going and getting a coach that is a professional performer, works with Cirque du Soleil. Nothing wrong with that. The more help, the better. But if they don't specialize in competition, sometimes that can backfire because competition is very, very different than just performing or just going to classes week to week. And so being able to find someone that specializes in competition coaching, which means that they understand the rules of not just a bunch of competitions, but specifically the competition you're wanting to do, and knowing how to prep you for that, finding the right person and also being able to afford them or being able to train with them because maybe they're not in your area, maybe they don't offer virtuals, whatever the case may be, that in itself can be a barrier. There's also a knowledge barrier. You don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot that you don't know in competition. It's taken me years to get to where I am, and I'm still learning stuff all the time. And that's because the industry is still learning and growing, and competitions are getting better and rules are changing. So being able to keep up with all of that knowledge is a little bit of a barrier itself. Along the lines of knowledge is rules. Rules are a barrier because some competitions are super, super specific about what you can do, what you're not allowed to do. Again, we go back to things like our gender identification, usage of your legal and government names, and those rules can sometimes be a barrier to if you can even compete or if you feel comfortable competing under that organization. Another common barrier is just body type concerns and biases. Unconscious biases, it does exist. I've experienced it myself. That is a big part of why I do what I do now, because I want to continue to help see those barriers break down and there be less body type concerns, because really there's no reason why everyone that wants to compete shouldn't be able to. But we do need people that understand different body types. We do need opportunities for people that are disabled to be able to compete. And so just knowing that that is something that's still in the process of growing, but it's not perfect yet, is something that you want to realize that is a potential barrier. Again, location and travel, it's not easy to get different places, especially if it's in a different state or a different country. Traveling can be very, very expensive. And so it might limit you to only being able to compete at a studio sponsored competition or a competition that comes to your city and state once a year. And that just limits your opportunities. The pressure to win can also be a barrier, whether that's self-imposed, it's imposed by a parent, a coach, a studio owner, or just your pole, circus, and aerial peers. That pressure can be a little bit paralyzing at times, and that will often stop people from competing or get in the way. Lack of representation. When you don't see people that look like you, it doesn't really make you want to do that thing either. And so whether you're looking at body types, you're looking at physical disabilities, you're looking at skin color, whatever it is that you are noticing that doesn't feel or look like you, that can prevent you from wanting to compete. And competitive organizers that are watching this, that's something that I would really love for you guys to think about, is making sure that the competitors on stage are representing our industry, and seeing how you can make it more inclusive, more inviting, more welcoming to different people from different backgrounds and different abilities. Also, practice resources are another huge barrier, and that's going to encompass things like equipment, studio time, and having a support system. So now we're going to look at what kind of makes competitions different, because not all competitions are equal. This is an important thing to know so that you are able to pick a competition that aligns with your goals, but also because each competition requires its own approach to competition prep and routine design based on their structure and their rules. So there's kind of 3 different competition types. You have social competitions that are more about just having fun and practicing, camaraderie, bringing the community together. You have pre-professional competitions, and those really help build you up. They might be heavy emphasis on judges' feedback. Scoring can vary, the way that they divide levels can vary, but it's focused on building you up as an athlete. And then you have your professional competitions. Those are your diehard athletes. They do this for fun. They do this for serious. They do this for work. They do this for career. They do this because they want to get to that next level. They want the title. They want the accolades. They want it all. Some of the differences within those 3 different types of competitions is the location. Some competitions are virtual only, some are in person only, but then you have some really awesome competitions that do a hybrid version of in-person and virtual that allows them to support more athletes and support you where you are, literally. Some competitions require an audition or a tryout that you have to do, and others are just pay to play. You sign up, boom, you get your 4 minutes on stage. Equipment can differ for in-person competitions. Some will allow you to bring your own apparatus. Others require you to use theirs. Of course, if you're a pole athlete, you're going to be using the poles that they provide. And we all know that poles come in different finishes, and that is a situation of its own, conversation for another day. There's also staging preferences that differ or are not even supported at all. So some competitions are static in what they offer for their stage setup, static in that it doesn't change. It is the same for every competitor. Some competitions allow you to select how you want your lighting. Do you want to start it in the dark and the lights come on, or do you want it to fade to dark? You might have the opportunity to use an LCD screen so that you can project video or photo behind your performance. Some allow smoke. Some are very specific with what they allow for props, especially when it comes to like messy, wet, glittery, smoky things. Your ability to enter and exit when, where, and how you want is something that can also change from competition to competition. Competitions, some of them are just, this is our one event that we do. We're not attached to anyone else, and it's this and this alone. Other competitions are part of their own ecosystem or lead into a bigger ecosystem. So there's advancement opportunities that are nationals, or it might lead to worlds. So just knowing what that competitive ecosystem leads to. Prizes differ from competitions. Your prizes are anywhere from nothing to things super, super awesome. So that's another thing to look into. The competitiveness and camaraderie of fellow competitors. Now, this is something that differs from competition to competition. You'll get a little bit of both at every competition, but the professional competitions, the one where people are putting a lot of money, time, and effort into this, you might get a little bit more of those competitive people versus those I'm here for camaraderie people. You also have additional fees and requirements, things like coaching passes and anti-doping. Again, so those are just some of the big things that makes competitions different from each other and the things that you want to be aware of when you're signing up for a competition. So prizes, I kind of just touched on this a little bit, but who doesn't like prizes? I think we all like prizes. It's great to get something. So not all competitions offer prizes. The prizes that they offer can range from bragging rights to a pro card or other advancements like nationals and worlds like we talked about. There are competitions that offer money, gift cards, gift certificates. They might have sponsors that are providing discounts, that are providing swag or certifications, tangible prizes, medals, trophies, gift bags. So those are just some of the different things that I've seen over the years. They're great to get. I tell people you are already winners just by getting on stage and experiencing the growth that you get physically, mentally, and emotionally. But if you get a little something, something extra, that is not a bad thing to have. So if prizes matter to you more than just doing and getting recognition, then definitely take some time to explore what prizes have been given away in the past and see if that's something that interests you and would benefit you. Let's talk time. So we're going to talk about what the time commitment is outside of classes. So outside of what your current class schedule is, what is the minimum amount of time that you're going to need to put into prepping for competition? So if you're an amateur competitor, you're looking at 4 to 6 additional hours a week. If you are a professional competitor, you're looking at 8 to 12 additional hours per week. Now, those of us that are making a career out of this, like this is die hard, what you want to do, you're going pro, you're going to be a professional performer, you have amazing, lofty goals, you're going to likely spend upwards of about 20 hours a week perfecting the process and perfecting your craft. Now with that, I tell competitors when you're in a competition training cycle, you might actually want to taper down your class hours that you're currently taking. So that schedule might change, which can also help accommodate more of the individual training that you're going to have to do to prep for competition. So it doesn't necessarily have to be completely new hours. You can kind of repurpose some current hours, but just understand 4 to 6 for amateurs, 8 to 12 for our more serious competitors, and those that are super pro, going, to the infinity and beyond. You guys are looking at upwards of 20 hours doing it right. What your time commitment entails will be slightly different for each of us, just depending on your everyday life, what your goals are, what your resources and help are. But those hours are going to break down into your actual physical practice. So when you're in the studio working on tricks, transitions, choreography, practice review. This is something that not everyone does, but record your practices and review your practices so that you can know what you need to work on the next practice. This can also include things like private lessons, whether it's in your apparatus with a coach, or if it's supplemental training like the flexibility, gymnastics, acting, ballet, things like that. You have open studio that you need to go to because not all instructors or classes or studios are going to allow you to practice your competition routine in a regular class. So you're going to have to find some time outside of your regular classes to actually practice your routines. And then you have body care, which is super, super important. So that's going to be your hydration, your nutrition, and your active recovery. If you don't know what active recovery is, that's going to be like your foam rolling, your stretching, your mobility work, all of the things that you need to do to keep your body in good training condition. Another one is visualization, where you're just thinking through your routine. This can also tie back into your video review, but it's where you're making mental notes and you're doing mental training to help you in your next physical training session. And then there's the most important recovery, which is your rest and sleep. And that is where everything that you've done throughout the day really comes together. And that's where the gains are made. We have to get really good rest and sleep when it comes to our physical movement and abilities. All right, so back to what makes competitions different. Scoring and score sheets are a big one. And as you can see here, I have three different score sheets from three different competitions, and you can see just how different they can be. Some are super, super detailed and almost like itemized in what they look for, and some are more global in what they're looking for. So each competition has its own rules, it has its own score sheets, and it tells you what it is that they are looking for. And so at the end of the day, competition isn't really about another person, it's about how well you follow the rules and the score sheets set by the competition itself. So most score sheets, regardless of how they're labeled and broken down, are evaluating competitors in three areas. Well, technically four, but three main areas. The first one is just like your overall technical and difficulty. What tricks and combos are you doing and how hard were they? Execution is how well did you do what you did? Yes? Did you have good lines? Hope so. And then you have artistic, which is like your style, your theatrics, your musical connections, costume, hair, makeup, props. The fourth one isn't really an area of judging, but that one's deductions. And that's where you're going to lose points, which you don't want to do. So again, execution is how well did you do what you did. Your difficulty technical is looking at what is it that you did on stage from a difficulty perspective. So your tricks and level of difficulty in your transitions. Artistic is how creatively did you do it? And then again, deductions. And those are about, did you forget to include something that was required for your level or age group? Or what rules did you break? Hopefully none. Alrighty, so coaching. I know we kind of talked about coaching as a barrier to competition. However, for those that are able to invest in a coach, I highly, highly, highly recommend it, especially if you are competing to win. So there's a lot of benefits to having a coach. Some of the main ones are shortening the learning curve, and that's understanding rules, best practices, and really just having that insider insight for the competition journey. Routine development and polishing. Your coaches are going to be able to help you every step of the way with the conceptualizing your routine, building it, cleaning it up, to actually putting it on stage competition day. Coach is going to help with strategic and personalized training. So what works for one person might not be what's best for you. And so understanding what you need to be the best competitor you can be is their job. Helping you create and adhere to a practice schedule, accountability and consistency is super important. And so them being there to help support you and keep you on track is super, super helpful. For the coaches that this falls into their wheelhouse is also the opportunity to help with mental toughness and confidence building. Injury prevention and longevity, because none of us want to do this just for a season. We want to be able to do this until we're done doing it. And so keeping our bodies strong and able is super important. Having a good day of routine is super, super key to having a great performance on stage, and coaches can help you with building that routine. And then post-competition review and feedback. That's where your coaches come back in. They look at what you guys did together. They help interpret the judges' feedback. If you scored really, really high in one area, you guys know that you're on the right track. If you didn't score as high in another area, that's kind of where you need to do a little bit more. And so they can start to connect those dots and help you figure out where to go next. Again, I know that coaching can be expensive. It's also a barrier. So I want to share a few workarounds for coaching help when resources are limited. So the first thing is free online resources. Just hop on Google or YouTube University, Instagram, whatever. There are a lot of online free resources, from people just talking about their competition experience to people actually sharing tips and tricks and tutorials. There are coaches that offer online coaching, free resources. There's a lot of stuff out there. Get on Reddit. So much in Reddit. Again, it's going to take some time. It's a lot of information to sift through, but if you don't mind kind of being on the hunt for it, then it is there and it's free. The other thing is talk to other competitors, past competitors. They are full of insight, knowledge, and experience, and most of them are super willing to share. So just reach out to them, say, hey, I saw you did this competition. I'm thinking about doing it. Can you share some insight with me? I've actually never met anyone that ever said no, unless there may be a coach that's what they do for a living. But most competitors are pretty cool and will share with you. The other thing you can do is take all of your questions. So like wait till you have a book full of questions and just do one coaching session or a consulting session and get all of those questions answered. So you might not be able to have a coach that's there with you at every practice and every step of the way, but you can have a resource that you can lean on when you've got a good chunk of questions that they can answer in a 30-minute consult. And that's something that I do as well. And I found that it's super helpful to competitors when they just have some quick questions, some things that they don't understand, or again, when they aren't able to afford a coaching plan, but they still need that support. And you can actually get a lot of things done in 30 minutes. Along those same lines, you can do as much as you can by yourself. And then if you get to a point where you feel kind of stuck, then you can invest in a coach. You might be able to get a really like a small coaching plan that's just like 2 or 3 sessions, almost like a punch card. And the other thing is you can look for coaches that help in areas that you're not so good with. So if you're like, hey man, I'm great at stage presence, theatrics, choreography, I got that. I struggle with tricks and combos. Maybe you just get a coach to help you with the tricks and combos. That way you're not spending a whole bunch of money, but you're able to focus on the areas where you really, really need the help and support. Alrighty, so music. I'm going to be honest, I could talk about music strategy for hours. We're actually going to save that for another session. But I do want to share a few key things that you need to be aware of. So the first thing is times. Each competition has their own requirements for times. Some have a minimum time that you have to hit. Some have a maximum time allowance. Some competitions have both. So make sure that you know what the time requirements are for your competition, your level, division, category, because it can also differ within the same competition depending on what level, category, and age group you're in. Make sure that your music aligns with the category you selected. So if you are doing let's say a dramatic piece and you enter dramatic, you don't necessarily want to pick a song that's like twerk, 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 twerk. That's super entertaining. You want to pick something that follows the theme of drama. So make sure your music aligns with the category that you've entered. You also want to make sure that your music aligns with the score sheets. And this is a problem that I see often where people pick a song for whatever their reason is, but the song does not align with the score sheets. So if your score sheets have something like body segments or different dance styles, if your music doesn't support the use of body segments or it doesn't support dance styles because it's one song, it's not blended, it's very monotone, that's going to make it hard for you to do the things that the score sheets are asking for. So make sure that your music aligns with what the score sheet is asking. There's also editing. Some competitions don't care what you do with your music, how you edit it, how it's cut. You can do it yourself, and what you give them, what you dance to, that's all you. Some competitions are very specific and they want your music to sound of professional quality. So if it has abrupt cuts, if the music mashup doesn't make sense, if the storyline doesn't make sense, that can count against you. And so you might find a situation where you have to invest in a music producer to help cut and blend your music so that it fits the needs and requirements of the competition. Also, side note, having your music professionally done, I highly encourage if you, one, can afford it, and two, if you're going to do something very unique with blending and cutting your music. Only because even if the competition doesn't count off for it, if your music just abruptly cuts or changes and it doesn't make sense, it's gonna kind of like, if you've ever heard a record player skip, it's going to kind of give that same effect to your judges. And you don't want anything interrupting their judging flow. So try to keep everything just nice and smooth and clean as much as possible. Also with music, you want to avoid songs that are overused, Usually things that are super popular on the radio right now, current TikTok trends, those things, avoid them. You want to do something that's unique. I know that there's a lot of great songs that have been done before. Even if you haven't done it, even if it was 5 years ago, most of our current judges are really good judges, especially if you're doing a more of a professional competition. And there's certain things that we just don't ever want to hear again. So try to stay away from those songs. If you're not sure, reach out, ask the competition. You could reach out, ask me. I know some different instructors and coaches out there that have their own lists of songs that you should never touch. Anything by The Weeknd, AWOL Sail, anything Roxanne, don't do Frozen. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but stay away from those overused songs. Even if they've won before, it's not going to help you in the way that you think it will. Okay. Competition rules also dictate for some competitions that your music has to be age appropriate, family friendly. They have certain restrictions on profanity. So those are just other things to know about when you're selecting music. Also, some competitions don't allow music and sensitive themes that depict war, politics, cultural appropriation, or violence and abuse. So just another thing to be aware of when you are trying to figure out what music you want to use. All right, let's talk about your outfit. So costumes, you want to make sure that your costume meets the rules and dress code requirements of the competition that you're doing. Again, this varies from competition to competition, just depending on what they allow. So make sure you know what it is. Your competition costume is not what you wear to class or practice in. If you can buy it off of the shelf and anyone can go buy it, you probably don't want to use it for competition. You want something that looks custom. Hint, if your score sheet has a box for costume on it, that means they are specifically judging your costume. You definitely want to make sure that it was made for your piece, that it's custom and not easily replicated. Make sure that costume ties into your theme. Make sure that you practice in your costume. Practice more than one time. You want to know how it shifts, how it pulls. Does it cause you to like pull at it, adjust it, pick a wedgie out? All of those things you don't want to do on stage. So you need to know those things before competition day. You also need to know, is it sturdy enough to survive your intense movement? Sometimes thin straps or things that have buckles or plastic loops, those things can pop, they can break, rhinestones can fall off. So you want to know, is that going to happen so that you can make a different costume selection, or so you can tweak your costume to make it not do those things. You also want to know, does your costume impede your movement? So is it too tight in an area that restricts your mobility? Do you have something that's around the waist or by your shoulder where those are contact points, and when whatever's on your costume touches your apparatus, if it's fabric, it could cause it to rip or tear. If you are on pole or steel, does it make you slide? So you want to understand how your costume might impede your movement. Also, costume failures, if something pops out, something breaks, can equal a disqualification or a deduction for most competitions. And so that's something that you really just don't want to happen. And the best way to make sure that that doesn't happen is to practice in your costume. If you are also going to wear like a wig, a hat, anything like that, make sure you practice in that as well. Those are extensions of your costume and they can have their own malfunctions. So make sure that anything that you plan on wearing and using on stage, you are practicing with more than once. Grips, grips, grips. All right, we love grip because we don't want to slip, but grips are another thing that vary from competition to competition. Some have very, very strict rules. Some have no rules. Some have very vague rules. So again, when in doubt, reach out, ask. In general, when it comes to pole competitions, nothing can be applied to the pole. It's only to your body. Nothing that leaves a sticky or hard to clean residue, nothing that can result in an allergic reaction or impact the next performer's routine. And so I tell people, when it comes to grips, I know some people get upset because they're like, oh, I can't use my grip. That's not fair to me. It's not about not being fair to you. It's about how can we be fair to everyone? And we don't want one person's grip choice to impact another person's performance. So The best way to not allow that to happen is to only use grips that are easy to clean and that don't give unfair advantages, so that everyone has the same opportunity. Let's see. Gloves. So gloves are another thing that can vary from competition to competition. Some competitions don't care if you wear gloves. Other competitions will only allow you to wear gloves if you have medical documentation that says you have something like hyperhidrosis and that you need to wear gloves so you basically don't fall and hurt yourself. So make sure that you know the rules along those same lines. It extends to grippy clothing like ankle covers, grippy pants, clothing made of latex, rubber, etc. So those things can also not be allowed. So another thing to just check into with the competition so that you know their grip rules, and you also kind of know what their clothing rules are as far as things that can be grippy and give that unfair advantage. All right, so winning. I said it earlier, and I am really, really big on this. I think that anyone that decides to compete is already a winner. It is such an uphill battle, and the fact that you made that decision, you made that commitment, you stuck to it, you got on stage, you did something amazing that hopefully you're proud of, that already makes you a winner in my book. But I understand some people want that title, and they want that hardware, and they want to stand on the podium. So if you are that person where you want the title, you want the accolades, you want the prizes and the podium, there are a few things that you cannot skimp on. The one is rules. You have to know the rules. You have to understand the rules. You have to understand the judging system. There is strategy in how you build your routine, and the routine that best aligns with the rules and has the most creativity is the one that's going to win, regardless of what your skill level is, okay? Get a knowledged and experienced competition coach. I didn't say professional performer. I didn't say the best instructor in your studio. They are great. They can help. But you need a competition coach, someone that understands competitions, someone that will learn the rules alongside you, someone that knows how to help you peak at the right time, someone that can say, yes, this is working for you. No, this is not. Here's what you're missing. Someone that can interpret feedback from judges if it's provided, and someone that can interpret scores, because not all competitions offer feedback, which that's its own conversation with pros and cons for judges' feedback. But a good competition coach can look at the placements, and they can look at your scores and figure out what went right and what you can do better. Okay. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that you're watching past videos, not just the people that won, but watch the routines that you didn't win. What is the difference that you see? There's a lot of things that you can learn. And so you want to basically be a student of the sport, be a student of competition, watch, learn, research. The other thing is leave absolutely nothing to chance. Everything should be figured out. Your costume, your facials, your movements, everything. There should be intention and purpose behind everything that you do at every moment of your routine. You also want to strategize. Again, read the rules, understand what the competition is asking, understand what the score sheets are asking, and make sure that you build your routine in alignment with that. If you do those things, I'm not saying you will win, but I'm saying that's going to put you in a better position to be competitive and get you closer to that podium. So let's talk about some common questions that come up. So the biggest one is, what level should I do? So the thing that I tell people is to think about leveling with a growth mindset. Evaluate your current abilities as a whole. So if you're super, super flexible and you're like, I have amazing splits, and your splits are level 5, but everything else you do is level 2 or 3, you should not enter level 5. You have to think about where you are as a whole, okay? Within that, remember, you can always move up, but you won't always be able to go down. A lot of competitions will only let you go down if you sit out for 2 years, if you had a major life event like a pregnancy, an injury, surgery, things like that. So you can always go up. You might not be able to go down. So allow yourself to just follow that journey of advancement and start as low as is allowed by the competition. Also, Again, leveling is different between competitions, so the level that you enter in one competition might not be the same in another competition. So keep that in mind. Another question that we get often is, what competition should I do? Well, there are a lot of competitions out there. So you want to do the competition that aligns with you in the theme or the type of performance that you want to bring to stage. Their rules and requirements. Again, we talked about things like gender identification, use of your legal name. What are their specifics and how does that align with who you are as a person and how you want to present yourself and your performance on stage? Again, another one is, what category should I do? So you have things like exotic, entertainment, sensual, dramatic, artistic, showcase, freestyle. What are you into? What excites you? What is your movement style? What is your personality? What do you like to watch? Use those things to help you decide what category to enter. The other thing is, try out some different categories. Maybe you try them out to see what it is you really like and feel comfortable in. You might find that what you like to watch other people do might not be what you like to do on stage. So try some things out. Another question is, when should I start practicing? The answer is sooner rather than later. 8 weeks minimum. Now, I'll be honest, I've seen a lot less. I've coached someone and a lot less. I've gotten someone competition ready in 3.5 weeks. I highly don't recommend it, but that's just how it ended up. We got it done. They were phenomenal. They got first place. Super proud of them. But again, highly do not suggest that. A minimum of 8 weeks. Ideal is 12 weeks. If you, again, are on that, like, I am a professional competitor, this is what I want to do forever and always and make a career out of it, you're going to probably start a lot sooner. And it might really just be a year-long cycle that you're on, refining, tweaking, keeping a performance program for an entire year, an entire season. But start ASAP. Start before you think you need to start, because you can never have too much time. Kind of along those same lines is, when should my routine be done? I say a minimum of 4 weeks out. And when I say done, I mean all of your choreo is there. It's done from start to finish. Your costume is figured out, your hair, your makeup, your props, everything is figured out. Then those last 4 weeks, all you're doing is running your routine to polish it, to clean it up, to make sure that you have the right endurance. You are just nitpicking and fine-tuning at that point, but no major changes unless, maybe you get injured or you have to work around something. But outside of that, 4 weeks of just practice is what I highly suggest. The other thing that I want to encourage you to do is ask questions. Competition organizers are super, super helpful, and they want to answer your questions. They want to see you guys do well. We as judges don't want to deduct you guys for things. We want you to get all the points that you can get. We want you to do well, but you have to understand what the competition's asking you for and requiring you to do. So if there's anything that is not clear, that you don't understand, that you need help with, don't hesitate to reach out to the competition organizer and ask them. That is what they are there for. That is their jobs. Again, you can also reach out to other competitors. You can talk to your coaches. Your instructors or studio owners may also be really good resources. So ask and ask and ask and learn. All questions are good questions in my book. And the more you know, the more prepared that you are able to be. So that being said, we're kind of at the end of this webinar. I hope that you found this information helpful. I do have some more resources. So if you're like, yeah, I think I want to do this. I took your 3-question quiz. My answers were yes, so I'm ready. I've got a list of competitions for you to check out. It's got virtual, in-person, hybrid. It also has a mix of competitions that are circus. Some are aerial, some are pole, some are all of it mixed together. So you just go through the list and you can just research the competitions, see what looks good to you, what stands out to you. You might pick the one that's closest to you, easy to get to, one that a friend has done. But yeah, check that list out. Feel free to share it with others. If you want, you can also reach out to me on Instagram. I am at Entertainment Goddess. I will answer questions if you have them. You can also email me at flexifitco@gmail.com. You can take my upcoming Stage Ready course. If you need coaching, you can visit flexifit.co/competition-training. And let me know if you have any questions. If you're watching this webinar, though, as a part of the Stage Ready course, then if you go into the resources section, you can actually get this competition list. It's already there for you. If you are not enrolled in that course and you want this list, just hit me up on Instagram or email me and I will happily send that your way. And I hope that you found this webinar helpful, and I hope to see you on a competition stage very soon.